Hi guys, and welcome to the Tattooed Sewer. Today we are going to be talking about pockets. Everybody loves pockets, and pockets are really an easy way of putting your own little stamp on an existing pattern. Once you've got a bit of confidence with pockets, you can go all out. You can add frills, you can do different shapes, different sizes. You can really make a feature just from a simple pocket. I'm going to talk you through a few little designs that I've made up for pockets that I like to do on my shirts. Okay, so first things first, when you're making up a pocket, something like this would be your classic design, your square or slightly rectangle, and that pattern piece normally comes with a lot of shirt patterns. So once you've made it up, it will look something like this one here. So very plain, very easy to do. This one gets used quite a lot on men's shirts and women's blouses that are sort of a more tailored look. Now then, you can easily change that by adding a tab top like this. So for this one, you would do your classic design here, and then you would make your tab. You would need to make it slightly bigger than the original pocket. So this stitch should come up here. Your original first stitch should come from down the sides along to here, and then you do the top bit of the sides, the top and the other side, leaving you with a pocket that you can open. For example, these are a pair of shorts that I've made for my grandson, and I've put in these little cargo pockets on so he can put, I don't know, probably spiders and flies and sweets and God knows what in there. But that gives him a nice little pocket on each leg of his shorts. Of course, you don't have to do a straight top. You could do a pointed top to give your pocket a little bit more interest. You could also add a button detail there if you wanted to do that. You could make it a working button, or you could just have it as a decorative button. You could put a popper on there if you wanted to do that as well. So that is your basic pocket. Here I've got a pocket that is very similar. I've made it in contrasting fabric with a contrasting stitch. Obviously you wouldn't use these colours, but this is for demonstration for this video. And this bit is actually attached to the pocket, main pocket, so it's not an extra flap like the other one. It's just a nice detail that maybe you could tie in if you're doing a contrasting I don't know, placket or waistband or collar. That's something I like to do, is match the cuffs and the collar and the pocket, or detail on the pocket. That's another way of easily jazzing up your outfit. And this one, because you've added this part here, is quite a sturdy pocket, and it's not going to gape at the top. So talking about gaping at the top, unlike this pocket here, which is the more traditional pocket like so, where you've just got the normal square and normal opening, I would suggest either making your pocket longer or making it shorter, but either way add a fold over at the top along here. So this would be your stitch line before you attach it. That stabilises this top part of the pocket and reduces the chance of it gaping when it's had a few washes, or if your person wearing your garment is actually going to use it as a pocket. So you can do that. I normally do it by simply overlapping the fabric, but you can do it with interfacing, you can do it with a contrasting piece of fabric, you could, I don't know, add some detailing like lace or frills or something like that, if you really wanted to go all out. All my pockets, I make up a mock design first of how I want to do it. I make them out of this sturdy sort of brown paper because it makes it easier to cut them, and I always write on the back what my thoughts are about it, what I need. So this is a pocket with a sewn down flap. I need to add my seam allowance to this pattern piece so I can adjust it to the size I want with the shirt I'm putting it on, and I need to cut 2 in fabric. So one of those needs to be fabric and one of those needs to be a contrasting fabric. I put these little lines on here so I know that this one is going to be the contrasting fabric. It's also a great way of seeing if it will actually work before you do it. So here I've made a mock-up of a pocket that has got a slight pleat in it, like so. So once you've attached it, it will look something like this. So you've got this sort of peekaboo pleat in it. So you could do it just like that with the interesting line, and as the garment sort of moves, you'll get a sort of a peek of what's underneath. You could do it like that, or you could actually add this part as a contrasting fabric, so you've got that peeping out as the garment moves to make another interesting dimension to your outfit. Another one I like to use is this sort of what I call a purse pocket. Do you remember, like back in the day when you were young, you might have had a purse that looked like this with a little popper on? So again, you wouldn't use these colours because it stands out too much against this line, because I'm only doing it out of lining. But so you've got your pocket like that, like so, and then you've got your curved edge that goes over just like that. Okay, so let's talk about tips for doing pockets. Right, I know we all like to skip this stage, but ironing, so important with pockets, because it's so easy for your pockets to go a bit awry. It's hard to keep the smaller seams in place when you're pinning them, because the pins tend to move the seam a little bit, and because it's a straight line, you're going to notice it. So make sure you iron your seams down like so before you start sewing. I can't stress that enough. Now, a good thing to do is make a mock-up in lining if it's a pocket you've not done before, because A, you can keep it for future reference, and B, you can put it against your garment to see how it's going to look before you've wasted your fabric that would have cost you a lot of money that you could frankly use for something else if you're not going to do the pocket, or you just decide you don't like it or whatever, or you want to change your design or change the size. So this is something that I will do. I will make up my shirt, and then I'll think, oh, I fancy putting a pocket on it, and then I will lay it on the garment to see where it goes, if it looks good and if I want it. And then I can mess around with different kind of designs, like you can get really fancy and do something like a heart shape if you wanted to. You know, there's lots of possibilities. Another tip I've got is to make sure that you've sewn the lines straight and that you have cut back your seam allowance, because as you can see here on this one, your seam allowance will show through the pocket, particularly if you are doing contrasting fabrics as well, because as you can see here, it's penetrating through the fabric, and it just looks a bit messy. So that's something you need to be aware of as well when doing pockets. Another tip is to lay out your pocket, particularly if you are putting a flap on the top. you need to lay it on. You need to decide where your flap is going to sit on it. Are you going to have it right over the top? Are you going to have it high up? Is it going to be a functioning pocket? Is it going to be a decorative pocket? And then you need to mark out where you want your sew lines to come to, because you will be doing some sewing before you've attached it to your garment. So by adding these sewing lines, it just makes things easier so that you don't get puckers or you don't get confused, which is really easy, and that you can still open your pocket. Another tip is remember that your pocket needs to open. It is so easy to sit down at the machine, think, right, I'm going to put my pocket on, and you've forgotten to sew this line in first. You sew your square on and you're like, oh, I can't fit my hand in the pocket. I'm now going to unpick it. It's an easy mistake to make. You think you won't make it, but you do. Another tip is to reinforce the top, like I talked about earlier. Not all patterns tell you to do this, but like I said, it helps to stabilise this part of the pocket, and therefore it doesn't start to gape once the garment has been washed and worn, and that just looks a bit naff, doesn't it, really? Another thing I would suggest is make sure that when you've ironed in your corners and you're about to sew them, you could really do with just cutting off these bits of excess fabric, because once you've got it on the garment and then you're trying to sew it, you've then got several layers of cotton in the corner, which is the most important part for you to sew, because you want to make sure that looks nice and crisp. And then the machine will not be happy and it will start to chew up the corner, and then it's a bit of a disaster because it doesn't look quite right. Now, pockets can be a great way of adding a new dimension to your garment for several reasons. It can just be functional. You like pockets, we need pockets, pockets are ace. It can be decorative. It can add a pop of colour. It can add a new pattern. It can just jazz it up. You can also use them to put lace on or frills, or you could even gather them. Now, if you're making a garment, maybe for yourself or for someone else who's hasn't got a big bust, for instance, a way of achieving a bigger bust look is that you could add a detailed pocket, maybe with some ruching on it or something like that, that gives the illusion of fullness. And it's another way of maybe pulling the eye to the bust, if that's the part of the body that your customer or that you like. And it's a way of discreetly pulling the eye down to look at that area, particularly if you're doing like a contrasting fabric, something like that. Things you need to look out for. If you are using a contrasting fabric, you need to use a similar or same fabric. If you make a cotton shirt and put a stretched jersey pocket on it, it's just going to be awful. It's not going to sew very well. It's not going to sit very well. It's going to stretch out of shape and basically just be a complete nightmare and a waste of time, and you're going to get frustrated and you're going to end up removing it. So like for like with your fabric. So there you have it, guys, how to do a few little tweaks to pockets to really jazz up your outfit and give it your own little bit of personalisation. So I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and come back and see me soon. Make sure you stay safe, stay well, take care, keep sewing. Love to you all. Bye.